From 1.2 million to 143 million in just 2 years. What if I told you that today's guest turned a food business into a 9 figure empire before even jumping into AI? She started as a factory worker, made it to FHM's 100 Sexiest Women list, built award winning startups, and now she's revolutionizing how we communicate with AI, a true master of reinventions. She is here to share how she defies expectations and builds success across industries. Welcome to another episode of Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your business. In this episode, I talk to Cheryl, the founder of HURO AI. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Ash.
Great. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you? Would you like to share with our audience?
Sure. This is a quote from some time back, and there are many different variations and versions of this. I have no idea who was the first one who even came up with it, but I had modified it a little bit to suit my whims. And it is, if you pursue your dreams, the world will conspire to make it happen.
Ooh, that's yeah, a lot of spice in it. The world will conspire to get it. Yeah, I,
That's
I think I've read this book some time back, something called Secrets, something like that, right?
right.
It's around the same. Like, I don't know if you have ever read that book.
Nope.
No, it was something related to like if you want to do something, you just have to like mm, sort of
Manifest.
yeah, manifest about it, and then everything just falls into the line, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It started
that's
when I was, it started, if you don't mind it, I'll tell a little story.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go on.
When I was about 16 years old, I would
Hmm.
wish upon a star. I mean, quite literally, I would look up at the sky and I would
Hmm.
say, the really corny statement that all little kids make, I wish I may, I wish I might have a wish I wish tonight. And I would wish upon a star and it would be the same wish for years. I'm not gonna tell you what that is.
No problem.
But, um, so it started when I was 16, and at some point, I had changed my wishes because
Hmm.
I thought, well, after all this time, nothing's coming true. I'm just gonna change my wish. Maybe I should wish for something easier. So, so I changed it, and the crazy thing is when I hit about, I think, 21 years of age,
Yeah.
the very first wish that I ever made upon a star came
Hmm.
true. And oh, wow,
Ooh,
this is
ooh,
awesome. Finally, the universe is finally listening to me.
yeah.
And then 3 years later, the second wish came true. Now, these were not wishes that I was purposely pursuing. I didn't purposely pursue to try and achieve any of these dreams.
Mm.
And one of them I'll share with you was, for example, I wish I had a dog,
Oh, okay.
and I was specifically looking for a uh, gosh, the type escapes me now, but it's sort of like a wolf, breed.
Oh,
And
the Japanese. What's the name
they
of
look
that?
just like wolves. Anyway,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah.
so 3 years later, right, the second wish, which was this one, came true. Somebody had was trying to get rid of their dog,
Mm.
and I didn't know what breed it was at all. I just went and picked up the dog,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, it was exactly what I was wishing for.
Oh my God, that's
And
awesome.
and then the third wish started coming true 2 years later. The third wish came true. 1 year later, the fourth wish. And then it went to months, and months became days, days became hours, and now it's, minutes to seconds.
Wow.
And it's not, nowadays it's not necessarily even things that I'm really wishing for. It's like if I had some kind of a challenge that I was dealing with,
Hmm.
I would be handed a person, for example, that could help me solve that challenge.
Hmm.
And, it could be this actually happened. It could be somebody that I haven't even talked to in 7 years. And they would suddenly give me a call immediately after I thought about, the challenge. They gave me a call and they said, I don't know why. I just felt like calling you today. I haven't talked to you in forever. And then, through the conversation, I would find out that it was somebody that could help me solve my challenge.
Mm.
So, this is why I believe so much in that quote earlier, is that, when you really go pursue what you really want to do, the world will conspire to make it happen. You just really have to believe in it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's. I was just trying to remember. I think it's Sheba, the breed's name. Is it
Oh no, Shibu,
Shibu? Something like that.
Yeah, no, no, not.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
The only
But I
thing that
do.
comes to mind right now is a golden retriever. My
Yeah.
brain is not
That's
working
what I
today.
was thinking. You know.
I got
Uh,
it. This is killing me. I can't
Yeah,
believe I.
Shibu Inu. Yeah, I just Googled it. But yeah, totally agree. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on this one because ultimately it's what you wish you want to do, and then
Right.
put your effort across it, right?
Oh, it's Siberian Husky. Husky. I'm so sorry.
Siberian Husky. Okay, there you go. Perfect. So, tell us about HURO AI. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're trying to solve?
We are trying to eliminate language and cultural barriers across the globe.
Mm,
So one person can essentially speak their native language and be able to speak to anybody else in the world in their
mhm,
native language, and vice versa. That person would be able to communicate with you in their native language. And the AI is in the middle doing the entire negotiation. Now, what our differentiator is not just, your simple Google Translate or OpenAI Translate.
mhm,
It really takes into consideration the language of you and the language of me.
mm.
How do I communicate the language of me into something that you identify with? Because you and I grew up so differently from each other.
Yeah.
So, how do we translate culture? How do we translate meaning and intent without insulting the other person from an entirely different culture?
Mhm. And I still remember when I was doing my master's, we had an assignment around how the messaging could actually spoil your whole business. And one of the examples we were looking into was, Nestle, right? It's a big brand across the
Mhm.
globe. And when they launched in Bangladesh, they had named it Maggie, which is not a very good word in their native language, I guess. And still remember that I had some colleagues from Bangladesh when we were doing that study, and they said that that is a very bad word.
Wow, interesting.
It's a very very
So
bad word.
interesting. Yeah.
It's somewhere resembled to, like, illegal work with. Never mind.
Illegal anything. Stop
Yeah,
right there. Say no
yeah.
more.
And Nestle, being such a big company, didn't even realize that it's literally, the messaging could be so wrong, right? And they had to retrieve the whole product from the market and relaunch it with the local naming conventions and everything. But I can see that Google Translator is not, or any kind of translator is not kind of a solution for removing this barrier between,
Right.
like, multiple cultures, right?
Right.
So so when you I want to go back, and learn more about you, but let's first uncover where the story actually began. Let's talk about where when you got this idea, where did the idea came from, and then how did you convince other people to come on board with you on this journey?
Yeah. Uh, I don't. I'll start from the very last question. I didn't have to do much convincing, to be honest.
Okay.
I think because, each one of us has had a situation, where we've either gone to another country, done business with, other folks, where communication was, you just want to pull your hair out, right?
Yeah.
So just grabbing from your personal experiences, I think it's enough for everyone to understand. Okay, this tool could be used by everyone.
Mm.
Um, it really began because I've been an entrepreneur for about 25 years. And, through my entrepreneurship, I've spoken, and met with, hired, done business with people across the globe. And, everyone has such a different way of communicating. And I can't begin to tell you, how often I think the way that I communicate is perfect. It's great, right? It's the way that I know how to communicate.
Mm.
But somebody out there, that doesn't necessarily speak my language, didn't grow up in my culture. Um, I think that we're speaking the same language. You're speaking English. I'm speaking English. We should be able to understand each other. But no, there's so much more to it, right? Because I grew up in Singapore. It's a Chinese culture. And in Singapore, being humble is a virtue.
Mm.
If I were to give you something, a gift, whatever it may be, the tradition there is to say no 3 times, is to reject it politely at
Mm.
least 3 times before you accept the gift.
Okay.
So now let's compare and contrast with American culture. As soon as they give you the gift, it's like, gee, thanks, appreciate it. And that's it. You'll never hear it again, right?
I love it. I open their box and I start eating the
Yeah,
the
exactly. It's like, great,
right.
man. What do you want from me? you know? Um, and so, you can imagine the difficulty there may be when an American gives a gift to, say, a Asian business person. And the Asian business person goes, "Oh, no, 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 thank you." And the person just stops right there because in American culture, you don't go on. You just say, "Oh, okay, well, you don't want it. That's fine. I'm not going to push it on you. If I
Yeah.
push it on you, now I'm going to seem like I'm overbearing."
Yep.
And but the Chinese person is expecting you to offer it again, but they really want it, right? It's not that they don't want it, and it just abruptly ends. So, therein, there's this kind of disconnect, if you will. And that's just a very simple, example. Another example I had was, of course, way back when in my entrepreneurial days when I was younger, didn't have much money to spend. So I wanted to hire some Indian, developers because we all know they're very cheap, right? And so I just call up a software development company in India, and hired them right away. And 3 months later, 3 months later, I got absolutely nothing that I truly wanted out of it. I wanted them to develop a website. It took, they told me it would take 2 weeks. It took 3 months. And during that entire process, I mean, I just about blew my top with them on multiple occasions. I mean, I got to the point where I started yelling and being so frustrated. Um, 3 months later, no website, wasted all that money. And what I realized was the accent was so thick, the communication style was so different, the structure even of their team was so different than how I would have structured it in the US as a US company, that the way I delivered the message to them was not being understood, and it was not being executed in the way that they would understand how to execute it. I expected to them to kind of think on their own feet and create their own solution to things. and not necessarily be told exactly, step by step what to do. And so the culture was so different, I never got anything done. And this experience was multiplied over and over again throughout, decades, right, of
Mm.
experience. Not just with people who speak different languages, but, employees within the company who had different management styles, or, would rather have a different management style than the one I do, than the one that I have adopted. And so, even internally, there's a lot of conflict simply because you and I grew up differently from each other.
Mm.
So, if we, the mission of our company, the end goal is really to unify humanity. That's never, in a way that has never been accomplished before. And the very first step to unifying humanity is to be able to communicate, successfully with each other,
Mm.
in a way that we meaningfully understand what you're trying to say. The intent comes across exactly as I perceive it, from based on my cultural background, history, education, even family background. I would understand what you're trying to say perfectly, and we would be perfectly aligned. And
Mm.
tall order is a very, very difficult thing to do.
It took me more than 10 years to understand uh, how native British people express their feelings when it comes to, let's say if you see a cop, right?
Yeah.
Some people think they're bad, some people think they're good,
Uh,
but the way they say, oh, copper is here. And I'm like always confused. What is a copper? Because I was raised in India for like 12 years of my life, and we call cops police officers,
right. Right.
right? I've learned that Western countries call them cops. But what is copper? Copper
Yeah.
is a metal, right? So this, it's a big thing. Another way I figured out this communication style is I've worked in quite a lot of American companies, and when you're giving your email address to somebody, you say ash@artcircles.com. But in America, you say ash@artcircles.com. In UK, if you say at the rate on the phone, nobody will understand it because they don't understand what at the rate means. They understand what at means. So you have to say ash
Yeah.
at artcircles.com.
Ash, let me tell you, this is the first I've heard of that term that you just used. Ad rate? I've never heard of that term.
Never heard of it? Yeah. So
Never.
there
So
you
there you
go.
go.
Maybe in America also different states have different kind of things, right? So like that those at thing.
Yep, the
Uh,
at sign. That's what I
yeah.
call it. At, yeah.
Yeah. So it's different. So let's move back to the problem then. When you had this epiphany, did you look into the market and were there other products? What was going on? And from your research, what did you found that encouraged you to move forward with this idea?
So I first tested out the pitch. I
Hmm.
just wanted to see, first of all, does anybody even want this product? Just because I think it's a great product doesn't mean anybody else is going to go for it. So what I did was, I was actually on my way at that time. I had talked to my co-founder about this concept, and he actually had done something similar before. He had actually created a language model in the past, a
Hmm.
multi-language model, which is exactly what this is. And so I said, well, let me test it out. And at that time, I was on my way on a flight to Middle East, and it was gosh, I was going to Riyadh. There's a huge convention called LEAP, LEAP. And on the plane, I wrote my elevator pitch, and the pitch was, I want to help translate the language of you into sorry, the language of me into the language of you. And then
Mhm.
I would go on to explain what that means. You know, everybody grows up in a different culture. Did you grow up in the metropolitan city or a village? Did you grow up rich or poor? What is your current age? Because you know my young ones are saying terms that I don't even understand. What are you talking about? Your work experience. You know, what did you go to school for? Where did you go to school? The amount of education you received. This is all a thumbprint. It's like a thumbprint of who you are, you know, and the way you speak. And so, how do we translate the language of me into the language of you?
Mm.
So, I went with this pitch and I tested it out. And what was really interesting was the first person that I would tell it to, they said, "Oh, this is really great idea. I love what you're doing." And they would tell the next person and the next person and the next person. And all of a sudden, they would start gathering people around me. And I would
Mm.
find myself in every instance having an audience in which I would then be telling this pitch to a group of 5 or 6. Now, I didn't create this audience. The person that I told would be advocating for me, and
Mm.
they would do that the entire event. They just kept doing that for me and being my mouthpiece. I mean, you know,
That's just amazing. Yeah.
if that is not an indication, right, of how exciting this technology is to people, I don't know what is.
Mm.
Um, so then, you know, I realized, wow, this word of mouth and people being advocates, there must be something to this. And at that time, I had met somebody at Leap. And this guy had a software company, and he said, "You know, I love this. I'm going to try and help you sell this." And I said, "Well, who am I to turn that down?" And next week, when I came back from Riyadh, he had uh, scheduled a meeting with a company called Concentrics. They are the number one call center in the world, 500,000 agents.
Mm.
And he goes, "You know, I managed to get a meeting with a call center manager. He manages 100 uh, like HR, you know, employees. And those HR people, their job is to hire as many, you know, of particular language speakers as possible." So we get on the call, and halfway through the call, the guy, you know, sits back and he rolls his eyes and he goes, "Oh my God, that's my dream come true." And I'm like, okay, this
Yeah. Yeah.
this is starting to grow some legs here.
Yeah.
And what was really surprising, and it really echoed the same sort of experience, you know, at the conference. This middle manager overnight had elevated our pitch, our product to his superiors, who then told their superiors, and da 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 da. And I kid you not, overnight we had gone up 7 levels of commands, or 7 levels of, you know, management, to the point where we the very next day we were requested to pitch to the regional director who was managing 11 of these corporate offices, and they weren't small, you know, locations. The one that we talked to, their location was 11,000 people strong.
Oh my God.
And so,
A lot
all
of
put
people, man.
together, yeah, all put together, you know, you're talking about managing 11 of these, you know, sort of offices. It's massive. And this guy was so excited that 2 weeks later, we had gone all the way to the corporate head innovator, the
Mm.
head of innovation of global concentrics. So that's kind of, you know, a strong indication of
Indeed.
how powerful your product is, and what is that problem that you're helping them solve that is so painful that every single one of them is just pushing you up the food chain. Yep, that's it.
Awesome. I mean, you validated it through pitch. You saw there's a viral network effect, and the startup's dream, industry
Yeah.
interest,
And we
all the
had
three
nothing,
factors.
no product, right? We had absolute. I had a pitch. That's it.
Great stuff. So before we move into like more details about the product and how things are coming along, would you be able to share more details around like your co-founder, your team members, how big is the business, size of team, etc.?
We are a fairly small team. We're under 20.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our my co-founder is a brilliant, brilliant guy. I mean, he's this guy was one of the founders of when telecoms. I don't know if you remember this at all, and or if you're even old enough to remember this. Way back when telephone didn't have voicemails. It was a tape recorder, that you push play on, right, when you go home at night. And you would see the button flash or the light flashing, right?
And then you replay them. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, overnight, it became digital. It was like, okay, you call your voicemail and you can listen to it. So this was the digitization of telecoms, and he was actually the grandfather of that.
Wow.
He was also one of two people that deciphered the ancient Mayan and Sumerian tablets.
Hmm.
So he is this linguist as well. And he was actually one of the grandfathers or co-founders of the military cybersecurity professionals for the U.S. as well. So, brilliant, brilliant guy. Couldn't have possibly, come to this point without him.
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. And you said that you're small, 20 people. What about business side? Have you got a concentric now as a customer now, or you have like 10 people, 10 businesses like concentric?
Yeah, I wish. Actually, Concentrics, with all these enterprises, one thing you have to realize is enterprise sales takes forever to close.
Forever. I
I mean,
truly agree.
forever.
Yeah.
So we are in their infosec security check phase, which,
Mm.
my goodness, let me tell you, it's taking forever and a day. But since then, we decided, like, listen, we can't wait for Concentrics. We got to move on. So we started doing POCs for, some other telecoms as well. So we've got, now one of the global telecoms. I can't mention who. We just completed the POC for them, and we're now moving on to the next stage. They're in, 160 countries with 330 million customers.
Mhm.
We've got another telecom with also several few million clients as well. But the very first step is to test it within their own environment first, right? It's, before we roll this out to consumers, can we give their internal employees value? Can we bring them value? Their call center agents, can we assist their call center agents in talking to clients from all over the world and serve them well first? So that's our phase right now.
Mm, mm. Very interesting. And truly with a startup bootstrap spirit. I love the startups who start with a bootstrap without much funding and then grow into like solving the pain points and then scale up. Let's take a step back. Let's talk about like you've scaled Tasteless market around from 1.2 to 143 million, right? That's a story must be told, right? Would you like to share a little bit with our audience?
This was in the middle of COVID. I was depressed. I was very depressed, and not because of COVID, but because my food business prior to Tasties had died overnight. I mean, it was a 7-year, you know, uh, business of passion, right? That's what they called food businesses because you're not going to do it if you don't have the passion for it. It's too much work
It is too much work,
for
yeah.
very, very little, returns. So, my business died overnight. We were feeding 10,000 people a week.
Wow.
We had 8,000 people on our loyalty rewards program. This was just in Austin alone. And we were just killing it, killing it. And I lost her overnight, so I was wallowing in my despair, right? I was just crying in a corner in the bedroom. Um, and all of a sudden, I said, you know what? I can't give up. I got to pivot. I got to put food on the table. And I needed to make something out of this, right? My survival instincts kicked in. And I said, okay, I'm gonna take that PPP money and I'm gonna turn this into a how do I pivot this business in a way that's going to, uh, pay for that PPP, times 1,000%. And so I put together a think tank, and
Mhm.
it was an 8-week think tank. And the reason for the think tank was because I didn't know what this new business was going to be. Clueless. And in
Mm.
fact, at that time during the beginning of COVID, who knew what the future was going to look like? It was so up in the air, right? So I said, okay, I want to bring together the best minds in different sectors, in different, how do you say this? Uh, different fields, and have them come together to do an 8-week in-depth dive where we educate ourselves and we at the end of it determined what this new business of the future was going to be.
Mm.
And at that time, lucky me, everyone didn't have a job anymore. They were either fired or they were sitting at home with nothing to do. And so I managed to get, I kid you not, the C-suite of MGM, the C-suite of Live Nation, Disney was on.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, it just went on and on. There were 8 of us. One of them was also, a good friend of mine now. He was the head innovator at Hershey's. So, all these different groups of people, brilliant people, came together, and every day we taught each other what we learned. That was our first, hour of the day. And this was a full
Mhm.
time job, by the way. This was like 8 hours a day for the 8 weeks straight.
Wow, for 8 people. Wow.
Yeah, for 8 people. And the idea here was to really just canvas the web and understand what makes this business of the future. What are the attributes
Mm.
of this successful business of the future? What are the 30 a list of 30 attributes that we can then measure our concept up against and score every single concept that we come up with these 30 attributes that we consider to be the attributes that would create a successful company of the future. And we came up with the 30 attributes, and every single one of us had a little our own Shark Tank moment.
Mhm.
We all threw in concepts into the pot, and then it was up to us to fight for our concepts, and we would pitch each other these concepts. So we would have our own Shark Tank.
Mhm.
And by the end of it, we measured every single one of those up to those 30 attributes, and we ended up with Tasties.
Oh.
Yep. So what Tasties was is a hyper local but globally scalable grocery store.
Wow.
And it was founded on the very fact that, grocery stores today, they have a million people as the middleman. That is, taking a fee for logistics, for storage, for packaging, for da 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 da. I mean, the list went on and on.
Mhm.
And the problem with all this is that the producers of our food, the people who actually, the very first people who actually, part of that food chain, the very first people would only take home about 3 cents on the dollar. Now, that is if they're lucky. And if they sell everything on the shelf, they take home about 3 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
So now, if you're not so lucky and you don't sell as well, they will ship the items back to you and charge you a disposal fee,
Oh
transportation fee
my
included.
God.
Okay. So
Oh my God.
you're taking that 3 cents on the dollar down to you're quite literally paying the grocery store at this point. So, what we came to realize was that this was the very reason why our food industry is broken. This is
Mm.
why our nutritional level in food is being depleted because as a food producer, if your very first priority is to reduce costs, the last thing on your mind is how do we give back to humanity?
Yeah.
Okay.
And improve the quality. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we found the root of the problem. We were no longer interested in solving. We said, listen, all these lawsuits against Monsanto, against, whatever, they're solving the periphery. They're solving the symptoms of the problem, but nobody is solving the root of the problem.
Mm.
And the root of the problem is how do we give the money back to our food producers, the people who hold the future of our nutrition, our health in their hands? How do we give as much money back to them as possible so they can do what's right
Mm.
for us? And the idea here is that we were going to convert the entire grocery store into basically a lease model. We were going to become landlords. We were going to rent out every single shelf space to food producers for about, anywhere from $50 to $150 a month for each shelf space.
Mhm.
And our stores weren't, big, they were small. They were like 5,000 square foot stores, 3,000 square foot stores. But believe it or not, in a 5,000 square foot store, you can fit about 9,000 shelf spaces that you can rent out times 150 a month. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And so, and what this means is that instead of me taking the profit from your product, where you make 3 cents on the dollar, all of a sudden you're making 60 cents on the dollar.
Mm.
What can you do with that 60 cents? You can
Wow.
increase everything. You can increase the quality. You can, and there's so much more passion in what you're doing because now you're able to put food on the table and not have to worry about feeding your family, right? So, with that one, I tested the market by calling up a few local farmers in the farmers market.
Mhm.
And I kid you not when I say it took me 15 seconds to close my first vendor.
15.
1 5.
50. One.
One
Oh
five,
my God.
15 seconds. I kid you not. I think this is a lesson in how do you pitch people, right? And the pitch, when you pitch to people, you have to realize what their what truly matters to this person. Truly, at the heart of it all, you have to understand their inner struggle as a human being. Their lives, not just at work, but their own personal lives as well. And when you can strike a chord at the heart of their soul, I know it sounds so cheesy, but if you can strike that chord, you got a believer. And so that's what made it successful.
I
It's
mean, I if I would have been this food producer, I would have jumped on this deal, right? Why not? I mean, if I'm making, I don't know, 3 cent, and now you're saying you can make 60, you know, it's not a big decision here to make.
it's
Like
not.
it's
It's not.
yeah, it's
And
straightforward.
you know
How did
what's
you
crazy?
guys made money? Just by the renting
The
the
lease
shelf?
lease model. That's it.
Oh, okay.
And you know what's great about that too is all of a sudden you don't have ups and downs of revenue generation and seasonal issues anymore, right? It's all year long. It's the same, steady revenue all year long.
Mm, mm.
There's a lot
And
more to the model than
how
that.
did customers found out about this? Is it like So in UK we have these Tesco's and Sainsbury's. I don't know if you've traveled to London and shopped into these stores. So it's equivalent to Walmart in US, I guess.
Mhm, mhm,
And they started as family businesses, but they're so big now that very very big, just like Walmart, I guess. Um, but we firmly believe that if we want quality, we go to M&S or Waitrose. It's higher in the price,
right.
like Whole Food. If we want more value for money, we go to Tesco's and Sainsbury's. And if we want like really, 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 really cheap products, we go to Asda or
Mhm,
Lidl, which is again a European brand. But we hardly go to close by one man or family store
right.
because A, they cannot compete with the prices. Yeah,
Mm,
right. And B, if the product is not moving, is it fresh? You know what
mm,
I mean?
mhm. Oh, yes,
How do you
absolutely.
tackle that problem?
So here's what we discovered. If the farmers were, food producers were making 60 cents on the dollar,
Hmm.
what does this mean for the customers? What our part of our motto in our company was pay it forward, right?
Hmm.
We help you in order for you to help others, and it will come back full circle. So, for every single vendor that we brought on, we had them sign an agreement that basically said, because we are helping you save and increase your profit margin, we
Hmm.
expect you to pay it forward by giving them about a 10 to 20% discount off your product.
Okay.
So, what happened during COVID was this is really unexpected, but it was such a blessing. During COVID, everything shot up. If you remember the price of I mean, logistically
Shrugs.
speaking, you had to increase everything. The prices were sky high because they couldn't keep anything on the shelf, and I believe at some point, if you remember, there was also some kind of a transportate all the truck drivers. They had some kind of a issue with truck drivers. I can't remember what happened exactly, but the prices shot up. And what we were noticing was the price of the beef, for example, that the local farmers were producing was even less than the grocery store prices by about 10 to 20%.
Wow.
And the reason was because it was in our backyard. All
Yeah.
they had to do, the producers, is what they've always done, which is to drive the product to the store, put it on the shelf. They didn't have to pay a truck driver. They didn't have to pay logistics, storage, nothing.
Hmm.
It was a direct model. And so all of a sudden, the price, this, increase in price was no longer an issue. And then, in regards to the quality of the turn of the product, um, we found a way wherein, if it was fresh products, it would need to come in either frozen, and you have very few packages, for example, that are fresh, right? So after a while, every single vendor will figure out on their own what is this optimal fresh slash frozen type of ratio. uh,
Mm.
we also would have cameras pointing at the shelf spaces that the vendors could actually access and look at the food, and whether it's the quantity of food that they needed to substitute. I mean, sorry, needed to fill back up, or even buying patterns of the customer as well. Are they putting your package back because they're looking at your price? You see them shopping around, right? And then they end up putting your package back because they went with somebody else.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what we did was we realized, there's no reason for having six different brands or six
For the
different
same.
peanut butters, for
Yeah.
example. on the
Yeah.
shelf. What is the point of that? You're only increasing the footprint of the store, you're increasing competition. And the reason why grocery stores, like regular grocery stores, do that is because they charge every single brand for every product that they put on the shelf.
Mm,
So for us, because we're no longer interested in, our priority is no longer, hey, how much can we get out of every single product? For us, the choice was simple: make sure that the vendors that you have generate enough profit so that they stay.
mm, mm. Indeed, that's really really cool, and that's that's telling me that everybody was winning there. Customers, food producers, and obviously you guys, because you came up with this amazing idea in 8 weeks. So that's amazing. Great. So let's go back to Hero AI then. Talk to me about the tech. Talk to me about which platforms it is available, and what kind of integrations you have available for B2B businesses.
So B2B is, like I'll take for example the call centers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have a contact center agent that is trying to speak to another agent, and typically they have their own call center system, right? Their communication system. Sometimes they use VoIP, as the communication systems. So we have the option of either integrating it into your system, or we have it sitting as like an app, basically like a desktop app that you can just download, and it will
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, do its thing and send the information to our backend, wherein this is where your intelligence is on the back end. It's processing, it's understanding the
Mm-hmm.
intent, the meaning, your culture, your age, so on and so forth, and then it's making sense of all that, and it's continuously learning about you. So every conversation that you have, it's actually relearning, if you will, who you are as a person, and adding to that knowledge continuously. So in the future, it just continuously um, increases its accuracy of
Mm-hmm.
translating what you are trying to say to somebody else.
Do you also have a mobile application or?
That's the consumer one. We are actually working on that right now.
Awesome. So it will be available soon.
Yes, yes, very excited about that.
Great, great, cool, cool, cool. That is amazing. So, Cheryl, I think this is not going to finish in our episode because I'm so into the discussion already. But we do have two more sections on our show. One is talking about the product, but another one is going through what we have discussed till now, and then there's the last one where we discuss more about like some advice from your side as being an entrepreneur for long, right? So let's jump into the next section, which is, you know, just reiterate through what we have discussed, and then potentially add value to our listeners' lives. So let me share my screen. And
Oh my
right,
gosh, that's the cutest.
yeah. So okay, we can start from, you know, when you were 16 years old and your wishes came true as per the time goes by. So that's a good one.
I
But
love
the,
the
the
hair.
Yep. So the good thing about the one of the things which I've noticed in your current Hero AI startup is the team. You have an amazing team. You both, you and your co-founder, are very renowned in your industry. They understand the girth of the industry, how business work, and how, you know, communication work. So that's really really pivotal for your business. You have a very small team, which is very good for a startup in order to, you know, keep running, and then you have low overhead. Couple of things you mentioned around validation of the idea. You pitched your idea and you found out that just by pitching the idea, even though you didn't had a product, it had this network effect which encouraged you to spread, well, which helped you out to spread the word across not just for your consumers, but the people who make decision for those consumers. So that was really really cool. You had industry interest quite early when you launched. That is something really cool because not all the startup founders find themselves in that particular space.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned about an exercise you conducted while basically you conceptualized the taste is and then how you brought it up to the 140 million revenue for a year. That is something really really cool about a founder taking a step forward, getting high skill, high intellectual mind together and conceptualizing something based on data and these 30 attributes you mentioned, which I think, like, if people want to come up with ideas, this could be sort of like a framework for them going forward. Not just about the concepts, attribute concepts, pitching to each other and quantifying the ideas to each other. Everything is spot on. So these are all things which we learn in books, when we learn lean startup. How do you work around like your validation of the idea and things like that? So you actually followed all these steps while working out towards your idea. And last but not least, currently you have a desktop application. You are integrating your solution into B2B spaces based upon the communication channels they have, and the team is working on a mobile application currently. um, there was quite a lot of conversation around testes, but I think we have already discussed what made the customer win, what made the food producer win, and then how you guys win in terms of like revenue model and providing the value to all three stakeholders. So I think that's pretty much it, unless I have left. Oh, the dog. How can we forget
Cutest,
it? Yeah,
cutest. You're very
perfect.
good at this.
Yeah, it's just the hobby I developed while I'm talking to the founders, and then it's just there. And my listeners love it, so I keep emailing them these things after the episode. So there you go.
I
Anything you think we have discussed or missed uh, the diagram? Or it's okay.
you captured it very well. Thank you.
Great, great. Cool. So let's move on to the next part of our episode, which is I have got a 6 quick fire questions for you.
Ooh.
Um, you don't have to necessarily answer all of them. If you don't think that it's relevant or you don't have answer, just tell me pass, and then we'll move on to the next one. But it's generally it's very open questions, so it should be okay. You ready?
Sure.
Great. Okay, number one, what are the top three strategies to evaluate or validate your business in 2025?
Oh my gosh. In 2025, this is a whole new era, by the way. You know, the for me right now to validate, it cannot be a one trick pony.
Mm,
Let's put it that way. Right? So when you evaluate, make sure, the next thing that ChatGPT comes out with or OpenAI comes out with isn't going to kill off your company overnight.
mm,
Number two, think about how collaborative your product is, and not just the product itself, but your company.
mm,
The way that the way your culture, your company culture is. Are you open to collaboration with other companies? Because that's the name of the game in this era. No longer can you move fast enough as a single individual company, developing products by yourself, because everything is being accelerated so quickly that you may be behind the game if you don't begin, collaborating with others. So play well with others.
mhm,
And I would say the last one is be very, very transparent with your shareholders as to the potential, you know, I hate to say this, but the potential failure of what you're trying to achieve. Because right now, I can't begin to tell you how many companies are suffering because, for example, OpenAI came out with something and overnight it's gone, right? Um, so, I think there's a lot of fear. And if you were to, tell everybody, hey, this is great, we're going to pursue this, it's going to be fantastic, da 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 da, I think you're going to be much more successful if you're open, transparent, and show that there are potential inadequacies in the team, but this is how you're addressing it.
Mm. Yeah, to open up your vulnerable part so that they can help you out with your
That's,
weakness. They can help you out with connections or
yeah,
bringing somebody on board to
yeah.
fill the gap.
Well, and also to, make sure that you don't get sued yourself.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely, definitely.
Protect
That's
yourself.
very important.
Yeah.
Great. Uh, Question number two: what book would you recommend to our audience and why?
I'm going to go against the grain here, because I'm one of those people. Too often I think as grown-ups, especially entrepreneurs in business, all we're doing all day is reading business, whether it's documents, articles, books, whatever it is, right? I would say the most creative times that I've ever had in my life was when I was young. When I was reading not business books, when I was reading storybooks, when I was reading, books that spurt my imagination, not about business, but just, that just about life in general.
Mm,
So I would say, go back to a childhood, book that you loved when you were young that really sparked your imagination, and find that inner child within you somehow.
mm,
It takes a very short time for us to grow into adults, and it takes us a lifetime to become young again.
definitely, and couldn't agree more with you on this one, especially with this world of AI. We just get sucked into complicated decision making every day, 24 hours a day, and the creative part of our
Right.
character just left behind is just sitting in the corner and just knocking like, when are you going to take me out for a walk or for a thought, right? It's so important, isn't it? Yeah, totally agree. And my partner is a writer. She has written one book. She's writing another one. She got into UCL recently, so
Yes.
kudos to her. And we're looking for some publishers right now, so hopefully one day I'll be the one who can you know buy a book and then get her signature. But
Yes.
yeah, cross fingers. But yeah, she keeps encouraging me to get these creative fluids
Yeah.
entering my brain,
That,
again and again, which is amazing. So couldn't agree more with you on this one. Um, what one attribute do you think or characteristic of a founder which makes a founder successful?
oh, grit. I
Great.
mean, just pure grit.
Yeah.
You get so many things thrown at you on a daily basis. Like, I can't remember who said it. It's like, I think it's Elon Musk that said this. It's like eating shards of glass, or sorry, shards of glass in your eyes.
Oh my
That's what
God.
he
Even the
akined
thought
it
of
to.
it is so dreadful.
And I mean, if you think about it, it's like, gosh, I remember during my food, I had a food truck, and way back in the day, one day I had a fireball blow up in my face, and it cinched off my eyebrows, eyelashes. My whole face was burning for hours. And you know what? I had to make money. And I had a line of customers in front of me, 60 people deep, right? We were very popular, which I'm grateful for. But in that moment, I can't just shut down and disappoint them all. So I held a can of Coke and a bottle of water on my
Oh
face,
my God.
and I would set it down to serve while I was holding it. And it looked absolutely ridiculous. But man, the commitment, right? That's the sort of commitment that you need to succeed.
Mm, mm. Grit is something which you need that as in a founder, like in your personality. It's like if you have it, then you have already crossed the 50% hurdles of your life,
Mhm,
in the founder space. Well,
mhm.
um and personal space also, it works. It works in the
Oh,
both sides, right?
yeah.
Cool. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Oh man, right now it's LLMs all the way. I mean, all the way. It just,
Yeah.
from coding to writing to ideas. It just, I save an immense amount of time with LLMs right now. So I cannot wait till the time, to the point where we get our technology to the point where it's an ASI. That's kind of what we're headed towards. I can't wait for it to, start helping me out with my actual, day to day running of the business.
Mm, mm. What 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 a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
Wow. Crazy business idea. Man, can I tell you, I've already done it. I'm I've crazy ideas that I have, I actually do it. Hmm. Okay, here's a crazy one that is just totally off, not even I don't know if it's even realistic. But two things, I guess. Uh, one of them is I would love to just design clothes like a hobby, just beautiful gowns or whatever. Yeah, that's like my inner female in me, my inner dream. And then the other one is, I thought of a car design before.
Mhm.
And, I would love a car in which, if let's say you're sitting up and, instead of sitting up like we normally are now, in order to reduce the amount of potential, damage if there's an accident or whatever, if we could sort of slide down in a more of a laying down position where you have a screen and you're able to see the outside and you're able to steer the car with like a joystick.
Mm,
um and it just sounds ridiculous, and then you would have this music and whatever. And so I think we're getting to the point where automation is potentially going to get there in probably the next 5 years or so. But I would love to see, and magnetic, uh, how do you say this? The magnetic pole come to use in the future, where the cars, um, Elon Musk has this tunnel, right? I can't remember what it's called, but
Hyperloop.
yeah,
Mm,
Hyperloop, right? So when I was, this was when I was, I think, 12 years old. I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could use magnets, electromagnetic, to have this, vehicles going through a tunnel and they would never crash because we would just automatically repel each other. When that was when I was young, and there wouldn't be any friction, and this would be great. I would love for that to happen.
mm.
Yeah,
I think in Japan they have something similar to that. I think they're high speed rails because they don't have wheels, right? I mean, they
yeah,
do, but they pull it off. And then after you reach to a certain speed, then you're just frictionless on top of the
yeah.
electromagnetic field, right? Yeah, that would be something cool. I don't know how far is Hyperloop right now with their, you know, going production
No,
live.
don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I haven't heard much about it. Okay, so last but not least, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Hmm. In pursuing my dreams, I'm big into pursuing your dreams. One of my dreams was pursuing acting. That
Mhm.
was when I was 21. I left. US to pursue acting in Singapore. And I won Star Search there. And I did 11 television series, 4 films.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my little, my little 15 minutes or more of fame. Yeah, that's it. A lot
Oh,
of people don't know that, but
yeah.
that was so many years ago.
Anything you did in English we could watch, or maybe on Netflix we could watch it.
Yeah, no, you don't want to watch any of those. Terrible. But
Cool,
yeah, my
cool.
last one was actually a US movie with many, many famous people in there. I'm
Uh-huh.
going to tell you what the movie was.
Tell me, come on.
Terrible. If I was proud of my part in it, I would totally tell you.
Okay. Okay. I'll not push you to tell us that. Don't worry about it. Great, great. Shell, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last years of building this business and some of the ups and downs. People want to check out Hero AI, or people want to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to do it?
HuroAI.com or
Mm-hmm.
send an email to info@HuroAI.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see your email. I will definitely respond. We are very excited about any strategic alliances. If you want to invest, if you want to be a partner, we are completely open. Because this new future, as mentioned before, it's all about collaboration and unification. And
Yeah,
anything we can do to help each other, that would be very welcome.
definitely, definitely. Great. And uh, it would be cool because it's not just empowering individuals, but it will help businesses also, as we have discussed on the pod. So that's really really interesting. So I'll do you have like a newsletter or something where we could subscribe for any updates?
Gosh, we don't have a newsletter. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Gotta
we should
add
because
that to our to-do list.
yeah, yeah, great. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing with Hero AI. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Thank you, Ash, for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you all for tuning into this episode. Make sure you go on heroai.com or send an email to Cheryl. I'm sure she will respond back to your queries. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.